Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Mark Lanier, and Grandpa to Drew, who I made this video for. First, a little background. I have always had an interest in the subject of archaeology, and how its findings relate to 21st century man. Archaeology, by the way, is the study of ancient human civilizations through the recovery of bones, fossils, and other artifacts. A while back, I came across an internet article about the earliest inhabitants of North America, called the Clovis. Admittedly, I knew very little about these people from the Pleistocene era, so I decided to launch a full-scale research project. The purpose of this video is really to try sparking your imagination to the unlimited worlds that can be opened on the internet, and to show you how easy it is to start with an idea, ask questions, and learn amazing things. Pretty soon you become an expert. In this case, an expert in Paleo-Indian ethnology. At any time during the following video, don't hesitate to hit the pause button on your screen if you need more time or need to research something on the internet. Okay, so let's get started. Our research journey begins with a 10-year-old boy named Noah Cordell. This past summer, Noah and his family were on vacation off the coast of New Jersey. For reference, I live in northern Michigan. Drew lives north of Detroit, and Noah was on the Atlantic coast not too far south of New York City. One morning, while out boogie boarding on the ocean side near Beach Haven, he stepped on something sharp. At first he thought it was a crab, but then noticed that it had an unusual shape. He had found an arrowhead, but not just any arrowhead. He had found a 14,000-year-old Clovis point. Upon presentation to the Smithsonian Institute, the Clovis point was identified. The curators suspected that Hurricane Sandy and subsequent beach restoration efforts had brought the artifact to the surface for discovery. I got to thinking that 14,000 years ago, this area might have been dry land. Maybe we can figure that out. Noah generously donated his find to the Smithsonian. So now my brain is buzzing. I've got to find out who these people are and find out how they got here, what they did with those sharp pointed spears, and most importantly, what happened to them. Now let's go back in time. Here is a historical timeline of life forms on our planet. Notice the multicolored bar identifying the time periods. They vary in length, with the longest being the Eocene period, which is on the far left, that lasted 20 million years, to the most recent Holocene era, which lasted only 10,000 years. The dinosaur period ended 57 million years ago, a very long time before humans arrived on Earth. So any movies you've seen with cavemen fighting dinosaurs is ridiculous. It's amazing how horses have been around so long. More on that later. The first ape-like humans were found in Africa probably about 5 million years ago. Only recently, about 15,500 years ago, did humans arrive in North America, followed a short time later by the Clovis. The first North American inhabitants came from Asia, and here's how they got here. The tan areas on the map represent the outline of Siberia and Alaska and the Bering Strait right between them, as it looks today. About 15,500 years ago, following the most recent ice age, the oceans had warmed up and began to recede, exposing what was called Beringia, seen here as the greenish area. This resulted in an ice-free corridor that allowed migrating animals and hunter-gatherers to move across Beringia and down the Yukon Valley, seen here. More than 1,500 Clovis caches, that's collections of bones and artifacts, have been unearthed all over North America, from Clovis, New Mexico, hence the name, all the way to Beach Haven, New Jersey, where Noah made his find. Here's what we know about the Clovis. DNA studies reveal that their genetic makeup is from two Sino-Asian races and matches 80% of the Native Americans existing today, and look very similar to modern man. They were probably intelligent, enterprising, and very culturally advanced. They lived in small groups of family units, usually just 2 or 3 male hunters, along with women and children. One Clovis cache in Montana revealed a continuous occupation at that location for almost 200 years. Drought conditions were prevalent then, with clans living on the outskirts of the plains area, usually close to a water supply, relocating only when their food supply disappeared. They were obviously skilled hunters, and they appear to have bred plants for specific needs. They also developed unique technologies that allowed them to create specialized cutting tools, including the famous spearheads. Some investigators questioned if the Clovis were warlike, but it seems unlikely, as strangers might provide a source of much needed information and resources, as well as providing assistance for hunting large animals. Let's take a look at how those famous tools were manufactured. First, you have to find a suitable chunk of jasper, chert, or flint. It has to be hard but brittle. Using a hard rock or a piece of bone, the spearhead is chipped away and fashioned. The final step is to chip away the flute. The end of the wooden spear will be notched, slid onto the flute, and secured with rawhide. Various sizes of Clovis points have been found. I suspect that if you're hunting for mastodon, you want a pretty big spearhead. Noah found a Clovis point that's a little on the small side. Given that it was found possibly near water's edge, perhaps it was used for fishing. To prove this, remember the map where we showed the migration of the Clovis people? Notice the location of the present-day shoreline. I believe that Clovis Point was lost on dry land 14,000 years ago. So what exactly were they hunting with those spears? Well, we know that North America had what are called megafauna. These are some really big animals. So let's say you're planning a big barbecue for the weekend, and the first thing that you do is get in your car and drive down the street to the supermarket, go down the aisle and find those wonderful big chunks of meat that you're going to put on the barbecue, all prepared for you to cook and eat. Well, the Clovis unfortunately had it just a little tougher. The meat for their barbecues came from great big animals like these guys. The woolly mammoth seen here on the left and the mastodon seen on the right both existed in North America while the Clovis were present. They hunted them in large groups of hunters. Here's a list of some of the animals they were hunting. They included animals like great big bears and really strange looking buffaloes with big horns. And even camels, which you wouldn't figure would be in North America because you think of them as desert animals. Well, actually, it was pretty dry back then. Okay, so before we find out what happened to the Clovis, we first need to research the methods with which archaeologists have discovered all the really great things they've discovered. As an example, a man living outside of Boulder, Colorado decided to start building a deck on the back of his house. He began digging in the yard and uncovered a cache of more than 80 Clovis artifacts. He took them to the University of Colorado, where they began an analysis. Here's where I try to make you an archaeological scientist. In order to learn how old these Clovis points were, two very complicated test procedures had to be run. Here's where it gets pretty complicated, but because you're so smart, you'll have no problems. First, we'll start with radiocarbon dating.